Most people buy the wrong camera. Not a bad one, a great camera that is completely wrong for how they actually shoot. A vlogger grabs a cinema body that overheats in 20 minutes, an action creator buys a mirrorless with no stabilization, a podcaster picks something gorgeous for photos but terrible for long recordings. I went deep into 8 cameras covering every scenario from pocket-sized gimbals to full-frame beasts. And instead of reading you a spec sheet, I want to walk you through how I actually think about choosing between them. Links to everything are in the description. Let's get into it. So let's start with the question most people are actually asking, which is, what do I grab if I just want to walk outside and start filming? And globally, the answer right now is the DJI Osmo Pocket 4. It keeps the same incredible 1-inch sensor and 3-axis mechanical gimbal that made the Pocket 3 so popular. But DJI refined pretty much everything around it. You get over 100 gigabytes of built-in storage, which is a lifesaver when your SD card corrupts mid-shoot or you just forget it at home. The 2-inch OLED screen hits 1000 nits, so you can actually monitor your shot in direct sunlight, and the Active Track 7.0 system locks onto your face and follows you through crowds, around corners, even recovers if you briefly turn away. It also shoots 10-bit D-Log, which gives you serious color grading flexibility for something that fits in your pocket. Battery gets you around 80 minutes at 4K 60, and the only quirk that bugs me is the auto exposure hunting in mixed lighting, so locking it manually is the move. Now, here is the thing nobody tells you up front. If you are in the United States, you cannot actually buy the Pocket 4 through normal retail channels right now. Due to regulatory restrictions, it is not available through official stores, so any unit you find stateside is a gray market import with no warranty support. But here is the good news, the Osmo Pocket 3 is still fully available in the US, and it is still an absolute beast. Same 1-inch sensor, same mechanical gimbal, same core DNA. You are not settling by going with the 3, it is a proven camera that still outperforms everything else in this form factor. Now, here is where it gets interesting. If you need that same portability, but you also post vertical short form and horizontal long form from the same clip, the DJI Osmo Action 6 does something genuinely clever. It has a square sensor, so the camera captures one big 1:1 frame and you crop into whatever aspect ratio you need. No resolution loss, no rotating the camera. And it has a variable aperture between f2.0 and f4.0, so you are out on a mountain bike ride going from dense shade into blinding sunlight and the camera just adapts. It runs nearly 2 hours at 4K 60 without overheating, which puts some mirrorless cameras to shame, and it is waterproof to 20 meters. The trade-offs are minor, a bit of rolling shutter at slow shutter speeds and a 35cm minimum focus distance, but for multi-platform action content, it nails it. And then there is the Insta360X5, which is the current king of 360 cameras. You film everything in a full sphere and choose your framing later, which means you literally cannot miss a shot. The dual sensors deliver 8K 360 footage that holds up beautifully even after you crop into 16:9, and the invisible selfie stick effect makes your content look like a tiny drone is following you everywhere. The replaceable lenses are a huge deal too. A scratch is a 10-minute home fix instead of a factory repair. Now, the 8K files are brutal on your computer, and the editing workflow has a real learning curve. Those are fair trade-offs. But here is something worth knowing. The Insta360X6 has been announced, and the specs are seriously exciting. We are talking dual 1-inch sensors, 8K at 60 frames per second, and most importantly, 10-bit color depth. That jump from 8-bit to 10-bit is enormous for anyone who color grades. It eliminates banding in skies and gives you smoother gradients across the board. So before you buy, check if the X6 is already available because it is going to be the definitive 360 camera, no question. If it is not out yet, the X5 is still fantastic, just know the next generation is a big leap forward. Alright, let's shift gears because indoors with a tripod is a completely different game. If you are starting out, the Canon EOS R50V is kind of perfect. The skin tones out of this camera with zero color grading are some of the best I have seen at any price, and I mean straight out of the box gorgeous. Canon built vertical tripod mounts into the body so you flip it for vertical content without extra gear. The screen rotates its interface when you go vertical, and dual record buttons plus a red tally light mean you always know when you are rolling. That sounds silly until you lose a 20-minute take to a camera that was not recording. It supports Canon Log 3 for 10-bit grading when you are ready, and compared to the Sony ZV-E 10 II, it is easier to use with better colors straight away. The downsides are a heavy crop at 4K 60 and no headphone jack, but for a first serious camera, it is a really smart choice. Now on the complete opposite end, if you shoot long-form content or podcasts, the Sony FX30 deserves a serious look. It has a fan inside so it never overheats. You can roll 4K 60 for hours without a flinch. The 4K is oversampled from a 6K readout so the image is razor sharp, and shutter angle control means you set the angle to 180 degrees and forget about it, the camera handles the math. It cannot do photos and has no viewfinder, but that pure video focus is why it excels. Mounting threads everywhere mean you skip the cage, and the XLR top handle gives you 4 channels of professional audio. For dedicated video work, this thing is a tank. So what if you want photos and video from the same body? This is where the Nikon Z6 III and the Canon R6 Mark III get interesting. The Nikon is the value play. A partially stacked sensor basically kills rolling shutter, and it records 6K 60 RAW internally, which used to require an expensive external recorder. Imagine shooting a wedding, going from a dark candlelit ceremony to harsh outdoor portraits in 10 minutes, and this camera handles both without flinching. The autofocus is rock solid, the viewfinder is gorgeous, and the 8-stop stabilization keeps everything smooth. The compromise is mismatched card slots so you cannot back up 6K RAW to both, and a slight dynamic range trade-off at base ISO. But the package for what you pay is kind of absurd. The Canon R6 Mark III is the premium play. 7K open gate uses every pixel on the sensor, giving you a massive frame to crop into horizontal, vertical, cinematic widescreen, whatever you need in post. The 8.5 stop stabilization lives up to the hype. Handheld footage genuinely looks gimbal shot. Face registration autofocus lets you lock onto up to 10 specific faces in a crowd, which is incredible for events. The catch is Canon's closed RF mount, so you are buying Canon glass only, and it is not cheap. Files are enormous, and without an internal fan, you top out around 25 minutes of continuous 7K. But if post-production flexibility is your priority, nothing else comes close. And then there is the Sony Alpha 7V, which is the camera I keep coming back to when people ask what the smartest buy is right now. The AI autofocus is unreal, 60 calculations per second tracking humans, animals, birds, even insects in near darkness. It has an auto-framing mode that digitally follows you around a room, so if you are filming cooking videos moving between your cutting board and the stove, the camera keeps you centered without anyone behind it. 4K 60 oversampled from 7K at 14-bit depth gives you noticeably more dynamic range than the Canon's 12-bit readout, and battery life is the best on this list. The one thing it lacks is open gate, so vertical cropping needs more planning. But Sony's open E-mount means incredible lenses from Sigma, Tamron, and Viltrox at a fraction of Canon RF glass, and over time, that savings is massive. So real quick, here is how I think about it. Starting out and want great color with no learning curve, Canon R50V. Daily vlogging on foot, the Osmo Pocket 4 is the top pick globally, and if you are in the US, the Pocket 3 is still an absolute beast. Action and multi-platform content, Action 6 and that square sensor. 360 immersive content, check if the X6 is out because it is a beast, otherwise the X5 still delivers. Long-form studio work where overheating is not an option, FX30. Best hybrid value, Nikon Z6 III. Maximum creative flexibility in post, Canon R6 III. And smartest long-term system investment, Sony Alpha 7 V. All links are in the description, and if this was helpful, I would really appreciate a subscribe. See you in the next one.